I still remember the moment my boss looked straight at me and said, "You did this, and because of you, the company may lose everything." The whole office went silent. Everyone turned to look at me. My hands started to shake. My heart beat so fast I thought people could hear it. I opened my mouth, but no words came out, because the truth was, I didn't do it. But at that moment, nobody believed me. Not my coworkers, not the managers, and especially not my boss. That day, I felt like my entire life was falling apart. But what hurt the most was not the blame. It was the betrayal behind it, because the person who blamed me was someone I trusted, someone I worked hard for, someone I believed respected me. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 32 years old. 3 years ago, I moved to the city to start a new life. I didn't grow up rich. My parents worked very hard just to pay bills. My father was a mechanic, and my mother cleaned houses for a living. They always told me the same thing growing up. "Daniel, if you work honestly and treat people well, life will reward you." I believed that, so I studied hard. I worked part-time jobs while in college. I saved money wherever I could. When I finally got my first real office job, it felt like a dream. The company was called Brightstone Logistics. It wasn't a huge company, but it was growing fast. They handled shipping and supply management for many businesses. And my boss was Mark Reynolds. At first, I admired him a lot. Mark was confident, sharp, and respected by everyone. He always walked into the office with energy, like he controlled everything around him. He hired me during my interview. I still remember that day. He looked at my resume and said, "You worked 2 jobs while studying?" "Yes," I said. He nodded slowly. "That tells me something important." I leaned forward. "What is that?" He smiled slightly. "It tells me you don't quit." That moment meant a lot to me. When he offered me the job, I felt proud. My parents were proud too. My mother even cried on the phone when I told her. For the first year, everything went well. I worked in the operations department. My job was to track shipments, update delivery systems, and manage reports. It wasn't exciting work, but I liked it. I liked solving problems. I liked helping things run smoothly. And most of all, I liked proving that I deserved the job. Sometimes I stayed late to finish projects. Sometimes I came in early to double-check reports. Mark noticed that. One evening, he stopped by my desk. "You're still here?" he asked. "Just finishing the monthly shipment report," I said. He looked at the screen. "You're very detailed," he said. I shrugged a little. "I just want things to be correct." He smiled. "That's exactly what this company needs." After that, he trusted me with more responsibilities. Bigger reports, more system access, more decision-making. I felt like I was growing, but not everyone in the office liked that. One person in particular watched me closely. Her name was Lisa Grant. Lisa had worked at the company for almost 6 years. She was older than me, confident, and very good at talking to management. But she didn't like when Mark started giving me important tasks. At first, the tension was small, just little comments. One day she said, "Wow, Daniel, you're becoming Mark's favorite employee." She laughed when she said it, but something in her voice felt sharp. I tried to keep things friendly. "I'm just doing my job," I said. She crossed her arms. "Sure." Another time during a meeting, Mark asked me to present a shipping efficiency report. When I finished explaining the numbers, Lisa leaned back in her chair. "Interesting," she said. I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She smiled slightly. "I mean, the numbers look good. I just hope the data is accurate." The room became quiet. Mark looked at her. "Lisa, Daniel double-checks everything. I trust his reports." She shrugged. "I'm just asking questions." After the meeting, I felt uncomfortable, but I told myself it wasn't a big deal. Offices have competition. That's normal. Still, things slowly started to change. Lisa began asking more questions about my work. She wanted access to the reports I made. She often stayed late when I stayed late. Sometimes I even noticed her watching my computer screen when she walked past my desk. One night, I joked about it. "Lisa, are you spying on me?" I said with a laugh. She laughed too. "Relax, Daniel. I'm just curious how you work so fast." But something about it didn't feel right. Then another strange thing started happening. Small mistakes began appearing in the system. A shipment address would suddenly change. A delivery schedule would move by one day. At first, they were small issues. But customers began calling. Managers started asking questions. One afternoon, Mark called me into his office. He looked serious. "Daniel, have you been updating the logistics system recently?" "Yes," I said. "Every day." He turned his monitor toward me. "There are some strange changes in the system." I leaned closer. The shipment data looked wrong. Dates were moved. Addresses were edited. My stomach tightened. "That's not how I entered it," I said quickly. Mark frowned. "The system says your account made the changes." My heart started beating faster. "That's impossible." Mark leaned back in his chair. "Daniel, mistakes happen. Just be more careful." I nodded, but inside my mind was racing, because I knew something was wrong. I checked the system again that evening. More changes appeared, and every change was connected to my login account. I stayed at the office late that night, trying to fix everything. Lisa passed by my desk. "Working late again?" she asked. "Yeah," I said tiredly. "The system has errors." She tilted her head. "Your errors?" I looked up. "No, I didn't make these changes." She gave a small smile. "Well, the system seems to think you did." Then she walked away. I stared at the screen for a long time. Something didn't make sense, but I couldn't prove anything. Days passed. More problems appeared. More customers complained. Management meetings became tense. And then, one morning, everything exploded. A massive shipment for one of the company's biggest clients was sent to the wrong location. It cost the company thousands of dollars. The entire office gathered in the conference room. Mark stood at the front, holding a printed report. His face was cold. "According to the system," he said slowly, "these changes were made by Daniel Carter." My throat went dry. Everyone turned to look at me. And that was the moment my world began to fall apart. But what I didn't know yet was that the worst betrayal was still coming. The room felt smaller and smaller as everyone stared at me. I could feel their eyes. Some looked shocked. Some looked angry. Some looked like they already believed I was guilty. Mark placed the printed report on the table. "Daniel," he said slowly, "can you explain this?" My mouth felt dry. I don't understand it either," I said. "That shipment order was changed in the system last night." He pointed at the screen behind him. "And the system log clearly shows your account made the change." A few coworkers began whispering. I shook my head quickly. "No, I didn't change it." Lisa leaned back in her chair. "That's strange," she said calmly. Her voice sounded almost curious. "If Daniel didn't change it, then who did?" The room became quiet again. Mark crossed his arms. "Daniel, you were working late yesterday." "Yes," I said. "What time did you leave?" "About 8. He looked down at the report. The system change happened at 7:42 p.m. My chest tightened. I was here then, but I wasn't editing shipments. Lisa spoke again. "Maybe it was an accident." I turned to look at her. "An accident?" She shrugged. "It happens. Sometimes people rush when they're tired." I felt my face getting warm. "I didn't rush anything." Mark raised his hand. "Enough." The room went silent again. He looked directly at me. "Daniel, this mistake cost the company a lot of money." "I know," I said quietly. "But I didn't do it." Mark sighed. "For now, just focus on fixing the problem. We'll discuss this later." The meeting ended. People slowly walked out of the conference room. But the way they looked at me was different now. Before, I was the hardworking employee. Now, I was the guy who made a huge mistake. I returned to my desk. My hands still felt shaky. A few minutes later, my coworker Jason came over. Jason worked in the same department as me. We had become good friends during the last year. He sat on this corner of my desk. "Hey," he said quietly. "You okay?" I rubbed my forehead. "I didn't do it." "I know," Jason said. I looked up at him. "You believe me?" "Of course I do." For the first time that morning, I felt a little relief. Jason leaned closer. "But something weird is happening." "What do you mean?" He lowered his voice. "I checked some of the system logs last week." My heart skipped a beat. "And?" "Some changes were made from your account while you were in meetings." I stared at him. "That's impossible." "Exactly," Jason said. A cold feeling spread through my chest. "Someone must be using my login." Jason nodded slowly. "Maybe." But then he added something that made my stomach twist. "Or someone wants it to look like you made the mistakes." At that moment, Lisa walked past our desks. She stopped. "Talking about the meeting?" she asked. Jason shrugged. "Just work stuff." Lisa looked at me. "Rough morning, Daniel." Her smile was small, but it didn't feel friendly. I forced a weak smile. "Yeah, Rough! She nodded and walked away. Jason watched her leave. Then he whispered, "Do you trust her?" I didn't answer right away. "I don't know," I said finally. But deep inside, I already had a bad feeling. The next few days were terrible. More system problems appeared. Every time something went wrong, people looked at me. Even when nobody said anything, I could feel the doubt in the air. One afternoon, I walked into the break room. Two co-workers were talking quietly. When they saw me, they suddenly stopped. "Hey!" one of them said awkwardly. "Hey!" I replied. I grabbed a cup of coffee, but my hands felt stiff. As I walked out, I heard one of them whisper, "Is he the one who messed up the client order?" The other person answered softly, "Yeah, that's what I heard." My chest felt heavy. I wanted to turn around and shout the truth, but I knew it wouldn't help, because the system logs still showed my name. That evening, Mark called me into his office again. His face looked tired. "Sit down, Daniel." I sat across from him. He folded his hands on the desk. "We've had 3 system issues this week." "I know. And every time, your account was involved." "I swear I didn't do those changes," I said quickly. Mark studied my face for a moment. "I want to believe you." But the evidence says something different." I felt my heart sink. "Mark, someone must be using my login." "Is that possible?" "Yes." He leaned back in his chair. "Daniel, passwords are private." "I know." "So how would someone access your account?" I opened my mouth, but no answer came out, because I truly didn't know. After a long silence, Mark spoke again. "For now, I'm assigning Lisa to review your reports." The words hit me like a punch. "Lisa?" "Yes." "She'll double-check all system entries until we solve this issue." I felt embarrassed, like I was being watched, like I was no longer trusted. "Okay," I said quietly. When I left his office, Lisa was standing near the hallway, almost like she had been waiting. "How did the meeting go?" she asked. "Fine." She smiled. "Mark asked me to help review your reports." "I know." "Well," she said lightly, "don't worry. I'll keep an eye on things." Something about the way she said that made my skin crawl. That night, I stayed late again. I carefully checked every report, every shipment, every detail. Jason stayed late too. "Maybe we should talk to IT," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "Maybe they can track who's using my account." Just then, I noticed something strange. "Jason, look at this." He walked over. "What is it?" I pointed at the screen. "The system recorded a login from my account this afternoon." "Okay." "But I was in the conference meeting with Mark at that time." Jason frowned. "So someone logged in while you were in a meeting?" "Yes." He leaned closer to the screen. "Where was the login from?" I checked the office computer ID. My stomach dropped. It says, Workstation 14. Jason slowly turned his head. Workstation 14 belonged to one person, Lisa. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Jason finally whispered, "Daniel, this is bad." I stared at the screen. My mind was racing. Why would Lisa log into my account? Was it a mistake? Was it intentional? And if it was intentional, why? At that moment, I heard footsteps behind us. We quickly looked up. Lisa was standing there. She looked at the computer screen, then at us. "What are you two doing here so late?" she asked. Jason answered first. "Just checking reports." Lisa's eyes moved slowly between us. "Well," she said softly, "don't stay too late." She turned and walked away. But the moment she left, Jason whispered, "She knows something." I felt a chill run down my spine, because deep inside, I was starting to realize something terrifying. Someone in this office wasn't just making mistakes. Someone was setting me up, and if I didn't find the truth soon, I was going to lose everything. That night, after Jason and I saw the login record from Lisa's computer, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the same question again and again. Why would Lisa log into my account? Was it really her? Or was it just a strange coincidence? I wanted to believe it was a mistake. But deep down, something felt very wrong. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. The building was still quiet. Only the cleaning staff were there. I sat at my desk and opened the system logs again. My heart was beating fast. I carefully checked the login times, the workstation numbers, the data changes, and every time I looked deeper, the same pattern appeared. My account, my name, but the activity often came from Lisa's workstation. My hands felt cold. Jason arrived about 20 minutes later. He saw my face and immediately knew something was wrong. "You found more evidence?" I nodded slowly. "Look." He leaned over my desk and studied the screen. His eyebrows slowly moved upward. "Daniel, this is serious. She's been logging into my account for weeks." Jason shook his head. "That means she could be changing the data herself." "Yes." "And making it look like you did it." A heavy silence filled the room. Then Jason asked the question I was afraid of. "Why would she do that?" I didn't know the answer. But part of me had a terrible guess. Maybe she wants my job. Jason looked at me. Or maybe something bigger. Before I could ask what he meant, the office door opened. Employees started arriving. The quiet morning ended. Soon the office was full again. Lisa walked in like she always did, confident, calm. She passed by my desk and gave a polite smile. "Good morning, Daniel." My stomach twisted. "Morning." She continued walking like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't been secretly using my account. Jason whispered to me, "You need to show Mark." "I know." But the idea made my chest tighten. Because if I was wrong, everything could get worse. Still, I knew I couldn't stay silent. At noon, I knocked on Mark's office door. "Come in." He looked up from his laptop. "Yes, Daniel?" "I need to show you something." His expression became serious. "Sit down." I placed my laptop on his desk and opened the system logs. "These are the login records from the last few weeks." Mark leaned forward. What about them? I pointed at the workstation numbers. Some of the changes made under my account happened while I wasn't at my desk. He frowned. So? So look where the logins came from. He studied the screen. His eyes narrowed slightly. Workstation 14. Yes. That's Lisa's computer. My heart was beating hard. I think someone is using my account to change shipment data. Mark leaned back slowly. The room was very quiet. For a moment, I thought he understood. But then he said something I never expected. Daniel, are you accusing Lisa? My stomach dropped. I'm not accusing anyone, I said carefully. I'm just showing you the system logs. Mark sighed. Lisa has worked here for 6 years. I know. She's one of my most reliable employees. I understand. He looked directly at me. And right now, you are the one whose account is causing problems. The words felt like a punch to my chest. But someone else is using my login. Do you have proof of that? The logs show your account. His voice was calm but firm. I felt my hope slowly collapsing. Mark, please just talk to IT. He rubbed his forehead. I will review the system later. But right now, we have bigger problems. My heart sank. What problems? He turned his monitor toward me. My blood ran cold. Another shipment error. A major client delivery had been canceled because of incorrect data. And again, the system showed my account responsible. I didn't do that, I whispered. Mark's face hardened. Daniel, this cannot continue. I felt like the ground was disappearing under my feet. I swear I didn't change it. But he was already shaking his head. Go back to work for now. His tone was distant now, cold. When I left his office, my hands were shaking. Jason looked up immediately. What happened? I sat down slowly. He doesn't believe me. Jason frowned. Did you show him the logs? Yes. And? He said Lisa is one of his most trusted employees. Jason's face darkened. That's unbelievable. Before I could respond, a loud voice came from the conference room. Everyone, meeting now. It was Mark. Employees slowly walked inside. I felt a terrible feeling in my chest as I followed them. Something bad was coming. When everyone sat down, Mark stood at the front. His face looked more serious than I had ever seen. We have another system failure. The room filled with whispers. This time, he continued, it affected one of our biggest clients. He lifted a printed report. And once again, the system shows Daniel Carter made the changes. The words echoed in the silent room. My chest felt tight. I stood up quickly. That's not true. Everyone stared at me. I didn't change anything. Lisa slowly raised her hand. Mark, may I say something? He nodded. She looked at me with a sad expression. Daniel, I didn't want to say this before. My heart started racing. But last night, I saw you working in the system. My head snapped toward her. What? You were editing shipment records after hours. That's a lie! She looked uncomfortable. I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying what I saw. Jason stood up. That's not fair. Daniel was with me half the night. But the room was already filled with murmurs. People were whispering again. Mark raised his hand for silence. Enough! He looked at me. Daniel, please sit down. My legs felt weak. I slowly sat. Then Mark said the words that shattered me. Until we complete a full investigation, Daniel is suspended from work. The room went completely silent. I couldn't breathe. Suspended? I whispered. Yes. Mark, please. This decision is final. My chest felt like it was collapsing. After everything I had done for this company. After all the nights I worked late. After all the trust I believed we had. I was being treated like a criminal. I slowly stood up. No one spoke. No one defended me. Not even Mark. As I walked toward the door, I heard someone whisper, "Maybe he really did it." That sentence broke something inside me. Outside the building, the cold air hit my face. I sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel. My hands began shaking. Then something happened I hadn't done in years. I cried. Not just a few tears. I broke down completely. Because in that moment, I felt like I had lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future. And the worst part was, the person who caused it all was still inside that office, smiling, watching my life fall apart. The first 2 days after my suspension felt like a nightmare. I barely left my apartment. My phone stayed silent. No messages from coworkers, no calls from this company. It was like the world had suddenly erased me. I kept replaying everything in my mind, the meetings, the accusations, Lisa's calm voice telling everyone she saw me working late. The worst part was how easily people believed her. I stared at the ceiling one night and asked myself the same question again and again. What did I do wrong? I worked hard. I stayed honest. I trusted the people around me. And somehow, I still lost everything. On the third day, my phone finally rang. It was Jason. I answered immediately. Hello? Daniel, he said quickly. I think I found something. My heart jumped. What? I went to talk to someone in IT. You did? Yes. And they showed me something interesting. I sat up straight. What did they find? Jason lowered his voice. The system logs don't just show accounts. They also show device IDs and login patterns. I held my breath. And? Almost every time your account made changes, the login came from Lisa's workstation. My chest tightened. That's what we saw before. Yes, Jason said. But this time we have more proof. What kind of proof? There are security camera recordings. For a moment, I didn't speak. Cameras? Yes. The cameras show the office floor during the evenings. My heart began racing again. Jason, what are you saying? I'm saying, we might have video of Lisa using your computer login. For the first time in days, hope sparked inside me. But will the company even look at it? Jason paused. That's the problem. What do you mean? Mark doesn't want to open an investigation yet. Anger rose inside my chest. He already suspended me! I know. Jason took a deep breath. But I convinced IT to save the footage. My voice shook slightly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Jason said. We still need to show it to Mark. The next morning, Jason called me again. Come to the office. Are you serious? Yes. Mark agreed to a meeting. My stomach twisted with nerves. When I walked into the building, it felt strange. Some coworkers stared at me. Others avoided eye contact. I could feel the rumors hanging in the air. Jason met me near the entrance. You ready? I nodded. But inside, my heart was pounding. We walked into the conference room. Mark was already there. Lisa was sitting beside him. When she saw me, her expression froze for a moment. Then she forced a small smile. Daniel! I didn't respond. Jason placed a laptop on the table. Mark, before you make any final decisions, you need to see this. Mark looked tired. What is it? Security footage. Lisa shifted slightly in her chair. What footage? She asked. Jason clicked play. The video showed the office floor at night. Most desks were empty. Then, Lisa appeared on the screen. She walked toward her desk. A few minutes later, she stood up again and walked straight to my workstation. My heart pounded as we watched. She sat down at my computer, typed on the keyboard, clicked through the system. Lisa's face slowly turned pale. Jason paused the video. This recording matches the exact time when Daniel's account made shipment changes. The room became silent. Mark leaned forward. Continue the video. Jason pressed play again. We watched Lisa use my computer for several minutes. Then she stood up and calmly returned to her desk. The recording ended. Mark slowly turned his head toward her. Lisa! Her face was white. I can explain. Please do. Her voice shook now. I wasn't trying to sabotage Daniel. My chest tightened. Then what were you doing? Mark asked. She looked down at the table. I was just correcting mistakes. Jason frowned. By logging into his account? Lisa hesitated. Then she finally said the truth. I thought Daniel was replacing me. The room went quiet. I worked here for 6 years, she continued softly. And suddenly, Mark started trusting Daniel with everything. Her eyes were red now. I was afraid I would lose my position. I felt anger and disbelief rising inside me. So you tried to destroy mine? I said. She didn't look at me. I only wanted to make you look careless, not ruin everything. Jason shook his head. You framed him. Lisa's voice cracked. I didn't think it would go this far. Mark stood up slowly. His face was cold. Lisa, what you did is extremely serious. She started crying quietly. I'm sorry. But the damage was already done. Mark looked at me. For the first time in days, his voice sounded different. Daniel, I owe you an apology. The words felt heavy. I should have investigated earlier. I didn't respond right away, because part of me was still hurt. After everything, it took a video to prove I was telling the truth. Mark continued, "Your suspension is canceled immediately." Jason smiled slightly. "And Lisa?" Mark's voice became firm. "Lisa Grant, you are terminated from this company effective today." Lisa buried her face in her hands. No one spoke. Later that afternoon, Mark called the entire office together. He explained the truth. He showed the video. The whispers disappeared. People looked at me differently now. Some apologized, some looked embarrassed. But the experience had already changed me. A week later, Mark called me into his office again. "Daniel," he said, "I want you to take a bigger role in operations." I looked at him carefully. "You mean a promotion?" "Yes." I thought about everything that had happened, the blame, the betrayal, the humiliation. Then I answered honestly, "I appreciate the offer, but I think it's time for me to move on." Mark looked surprised. "You're leaving?" "Yes." I stood up slowly. This experience taught me something important. "What's that?" "Working hard is important, but working somewhere that truly trusts you is even more important." A month later, I started a new job at another company. A smaller team, better culture, people who respected each other. Sometimes I still think about what happened at Brightstone Logistics, about Lisa, about the day I was blamed for something I didn't do. But that experience also made me stronger, because I learned something my parents were always trying to teach me. Truth doesn't always win immediately. Sometimes lies are louder. Sometimes people doubt you. But if you stay honest and keep standing up for yourself, the truth will eventually find its way into the light.